In closing, I have the great honor to introduce your next speaker. Now, I told you that I was a victim, I hate that word, of a mass shooting. The next lady up has a much more personal and much more recent story to tell you, and how the gun death laws affected her. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce Nikki Gesser.
Hey there, everybody.
Hey, Nikki.
I'm Nikki Gesser, and I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you can tell by my accent and my cowgirl boots. I am one individual who truly understands the importance of those words our founding fathers clearly understood and wanted us as American citizens to never forget. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. When you take away citizens' right to protect themselves, you end up with subjects to a dictatorship and victims of horrible atrocities carried out by criminals. My husband and I are victims of this very thing. The story I'm about to share with you is very real, very disturbing, and very mine. On April 2nd, 2009, my husband, Benjamin Felix Gesser, was shot multiple times and killed before my own eyes at a restaurant called Johnny's Sports Bar in Nashville, Tennessee, by a man who had been stalking me. This man's fascination grew to the point that Ben and I had to ask him to leave me alone. Ben and I ran a karaoke business at the sports bar every Thursday night, and my stalker had been a previous karaoke customer. I'd like to point out that while this man showed interest in me, he never threatened me, and therefore there was no restraining order filed. And restraining orders, let's face it, they're worth about as much as the piece of paper that they're written on. When he showed up at the sports bar after we had asked him a month before to please leave me alone, it threw me into a mixture of panic and annoyance. I told Ben I didn't feel comfortable with that man being in our presence, and Ben said he agreed that I should have him removed by management. And so that's what I did. I asked the manager to have him removed from the establishment. Something told me not to get involved and just stay where I was. I was about 15 to 20 feet away from Ben, on the opposite side of the room, where I could see what was going on, but my stalker could not see me. When they approached him and asked him to leave, he pulled a .45 and shot my husband Ben from behind. Ben was shot in the head in front of myself and about 50 other patrons. That man then stood over Ben and continued to fire 5 more rounds into him. After that man basically unloaded his weapon into my husband, he very calmly put the gun back inside his jacket and started to walk out of the restaurant. There just happened to be a United States Marine in the crowd. Thank God. And when he saw the opportunity, this brave man tackled Ben's killer. Other men formed a pyramid on top of him, and they got the gun out of his jacket and held him until the police came. This seemed like forever, by the way. I relive that moment over and over again just about every day. I wish I could go back that night and change things. You see, I am a right to carry permit holder, but because of Tennessee state law, I had to leave my permitted loaded weapon that I had been trained to use for self-defense locked in my car that night. In Tennessee, right to carry permit holders cannot carry in any establishment where alcohol is served. That law created an invisible line for me at Johnny's Sports Bar front door. But it sure didn't stop my husband's murderer. I will never know what the outcome would have been had I been allowed to carry my legal weapon on me that night. But I do know that we would have had a fighting chance for Ben's survival instead of Ben just being a pure victim. I believe Ben would most likely be alive today. I married my best friend. Ben and I just loved each other the way I think God really wants people to love. As fate would have it, the day that Ben was killed, I called in sick because I wasn't sick, I wanted to hang out with Ben. Something just came over me that morning that I couldn't shake, and I didn't understand it at the time. I just wanted to be with my husband. So I spent all day with him on what would end up being his last day on earth. I can honestly say that Ben and I were both undoubtedly madly in love with one another. I want to share with you a glimpse into Ben's heart and soul. You see, in order to really understand my sense of loss, you would have to know the sweetheart of a guy that I was lucky enough to be married to. My husband, Ben, used to write the most heartfelt, sincere, and beautiful love notes. He would always use a pen, he'd never mess up, and he never skipped a beat. I want to share with you the last love letter that Ben wrote me. My husband gave it to me just 3 weeks before he was murdered. Nick, this card says it all, so I guess there's nothing more to say. And then of course you open the card up. Just kidding. I love you so much, and even though I've been laid off, I feel like it's going to be okay because we have such a wonderful marriage and we think so much alike that I know together we will work hard and always put each other first, so we will always have happiness. To me, loving you is a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you smile. I love when the phone rings and it's you. I love waking up with you. I just love being with you. Like the card said, life doesn't get any better than this, and it's true. My life is so much better because you are in it, and I love that, and I value that, and I appreciate that more than anything else. I love you, Nick. Ben. Being Ben's wife was always fun. We loved to go hang out at the karaoke bar together with all of our friends, going to yard sales, riding four-wheelers, going out on the lake on our wave runner, hiking at Radnor Park, having cookouts, but most importantly, just being together. Ben would leave little messages saying, "I love you, Nick," written in the dust around the house. Now, my husband would never dare tell me it was time to clean. But I knew that I needed to dust when I started saying "I love you, Nick" on various things around the house, mirrors, tables, nightstands. Now when I notice the dust, I cry a little and I write "I love you, Ben." And then of course I don't clean for days just so I know his spirit and somehow maybe see it for a little while. It sounds silly, but it's just one of those things that I do that comforts me. Talking with people like you also helps me through this grief.